Popularly known for his lengthy meanders and rants in the Simpsons animated series, Abraham Jebediah Simpson, aka Grampa, is the father of Homer and paternal grandfather to Bart, Lisa, and Maggie Simpson. There has not been any character like Grampa who speaks so highly of himself, even though we find out that most of his stories are nothing less than disjointed and meaningless. Which just makes you wonder, how does this old man always get his audience to give him their full attention? Sounds awful, right? We still love our dear Grandpa regardless, because there is no single dull moment around him. Who would not love a World War II veteran and retired farmer? We are very much sure he had some girls falling for him in his young age with those 40s abs in place. So, without further ado, we present the Chronicle of Grandpa Simpson, starting with his childhood. With a passion for music at a very tender age, Grandpa was born on the 25th day of May in 1910. You see, when you live long enough like Grandpa, you start forgetting a lot of things, like what country you grew up in, because Grandpa just can't remember, and according to him, he grew up in the quote-unquote old country. That just sounds like Canada, because that is where his great-great-grandparents immigrated to in 1860 to avoid being arrested for helping a slave. I mean, his great-great-grandfather, Virgil. Yep, the Simpsons are 1/64% black. When you talk about family ties, Grandpa Simpson has the most complicated of them all in this series, being the oldest patriarch of The Simpsons. Although he is a narrator of his own history, most of them sound too good to be true, and as such do not have proper backing, neither is such information found anywhere. During Grandpa's childhood days, his father exhibited the traits of a bad parent. Grandpa recalls how his dad would hurl him so far away he would give the son a black eye, but you know, it's The Simpsons, so it's pretty canon. Irresponsible fatherhood is seen as a generic inheritance in The Simpsons, but Grandpa does not want to be like his father as he makes efforts to shatter the cycle of bad parenting and violent discipline methods from his lineage.
I've never seen Homer and Bart so close. Maybe I can finally be a good dad.
That's not Bart.
Don't ruin my epiphany!
Abe as a young adult. As a young adult, Abe is seen as a jack-of-all-trades and vibrant athlete, always winning a lot of medals, and as he claims, he attended the Berlin Summer Olympics of 1936, where he threw a javelin on Hitler. The javelin ended up hitting an assassin that tried to end Adolf Hitler's life. Abe Simpson had saved the day by mistake. Grandpa tells us one of his fabricated stories again, where he played in the 1940 Deuce. He was the center fielder in the Women's Basketball League.
Let's just say one of the ladies had some extra equipment.
Though what he earned after the game wasn't much, it was a better experience that he used to avoid going to war. One would never imagine that with Grandpa's dislike for wars, he fought a lot of battles and conquered all of them. Grandpa's many wars. Grandpa's experience in the military is one of his life stories that proves to be accurate and acceptable. Don't be fooled by his weak appearance. This old man served in the Army, Navy, and Air Force. One of the remarkable events during his time of service was during World War II, when he was assigned to the Flying Hellfish. He also went up in rank while serving to become the platoon leader and master sergeant. Funny story. Abe almost headshots Hitler in the middle of a misunderstanding when he was examining the troops, but Burns distracts him and causes him to miss his target. Anywho, the Springfield Elementary School created an opportunity for Grandpa to give his life stories on Grandparents' Day, which embarrasses Bart as he makes the most of it with his war stories. However, still at the retirement house, Grandpa receives the news of the departure of one of the men that served under him during World War II, Asa Phelps. He realizes that it's only him and Mr. Burns left alone in the flying hellfish, and only one of them can inherit a treasure. Mr. Burns doesn't hesitate to kill Grampa to get this treasure, so Grampa seeks refuge in Bart's room where he rants about his escapades to Bart. This scene kinda throws more light on Grandpa's relationship with Bart, as he is always seen relying on Bart to take care of him.
Grandpa, we've been spending so much time together, I almost feel like you're part of the family.
In the Simpsons Christmas stories, Grandpa is a naval pilot in the Pacific Theater of World War II, working side by side with his brother, Cyrus. He saves Santa Claus from Mr. Burns, but Santa doesn't return his favor, which leads to Abe's grudge with Santa Claus from a young age. Grandpa's service in the Air Force is an unforgettable one because this is how he met Homer's mother, Mona. Oh, serving his country and finding love all at once. Okay, let's go back to the beginning, where Bart discovers that Annika, his short-term crush, is on her way to the airport so she can fly home. Grandpa, who always has a story of his life that relates with every event, recounts how he fell in love with a cute waitress Mona in the diner area. He was the shy type to riz her, but later risked his life by taking an experimental aircraft all for the sake of riz. Well, he did win her heart and they eventually got married. With his story, Abe advises Bart to be himself when it comes to dealing with women. After his many wars, Grandpa goes back to being a civilian with the war memories held dear to his heart. Sexual Fluidity, Season 30, Episode 11, Mad About Toy. Boredom at home forces Bart and Lisa to ask Grandpa to play a game with them. This leads to Bart discovering plastic army toys that gives Grandpa a panic attack. This turn of events makes the Simpsons travel back to Grandpa's past in order to find the cause of this PTSD. Grandpa became a model in the 1950s after the war for a toy company that paid him $50. Innocent Grandpa was just doing his job while his photographer, Philip, had other intentions in mind, which was to kiss Grandpa. This left Grandpa astounded and deeply scarred for life. Grandpa decides to visit the photographer to find out how he is faring, only to discover that the one kiss Philip stole from him had changed his life forever as he came to terms with accepting the fact that he was gay. Their little reunion together ignites another kiss, but Grandpa in this case doesn't feel as traumatized as he was when it first happened in the 50s. Sexual fluidity is common in Grandpa's past, where different men were head over heels for him in the 40s. At that time, he was a German cabaret singer, dressed as a female. Even as a wrestling character in Season 24, Episode 14, Marge thinks that Grandpa is a gay, but rather his costume was all an act for the wrestling character. However, Grandpa's sexual fluidity resulted in him being a communist, Mason, and president of the gay and lesbian community. The funny thing about Grandpa is that you can't just figure out the weird thing he's about to do next. Marriage and fatherhood. Just like all newlyweds, Grandpa and Mona had a lovely marriage and their love waxed stronger, and it even made Grandpa tattoo her name on his chest as a symbol of his love for her. But relationships aren't always without issues. Grandpa's marriage challenges started the day Homer was born, and as it turns out, Homer isn't Grandpa's first child. Yep, Grandpa had an illegitimate daughter and son with different women before he had Homer. Mona knew about the illegitimate son, but decided to keep it a secret and urged Grandpa in return not to ruin Homer's life with his mistakes. After they got married, they relocated to a ranch house in the country. It was just a family of 3 with their dog Bongo. No matter how hard Abe and Mona tried to fix their marriage, each time it went down, it didn't work. They both had different personalities, and a happily ever after wasn't a sure thing for both of them, and eventually they had to accept it as the truth. Single parent. Mona ran away, leaving Grandpa to take care of Homer alone. So, Grandpa lies to Homer that Mona is dead, and that was the news Homer had lived with for years. Eventually, Homer finds out and is filled with rage, and a father-son relationship that was rocky already got rockier. Grandpa ends up regretting his lie, but it was too late for that. Homer and Marge visit Grandpa at the retirement castle, but it turns out he is nowhere to be found. They find out he was working as a waiter in Spyro's. Working at the Spyro's, Abe meets Rita LaFleur, a lady who sings in the restaurant. The fact that both of them had a passion for music drew them closer to each other. They started dating, and Grandpa asked for her hand in marriage. Unfortunately for Grandpa, Rita needs to leave for a 1-year music tour on their wedding day, and Abe chooses not to follow her due to the fact that Homer required care and attention after being badly injured in a car accident. When Homer finds this out, he begins to see his father in a new light. Rita comes back to see Grandpa, and they play an old song together on the piano in their retirement castle. This brings back the memories they shared together before Rita left for her music tour. Our retired farmer and World War II veteran now resides in the Springfield Retirement Castle. As an aging father, he passes down his properties and all the things he has owned to Homer, thus being left with nothing. Although in his retirement age, there are good times in which he spends with his grandson. Such moments can be seen in The Curse of the Flying Hellfish episode, his treasure hunt with Bart to find the buried hellfish treasure. And another notable instance in his retirement age is when Grandpa falls in love with Marge's mom, Jacqueline Bouvier, even though Homer doesn't approve of their relationship considering their age gap. But Jacqueline doesn't last with Grandpa as Mr. Burns steals her from him, hurting Grandpa at the end. If only Grandpa didn't take her out, none of this would have happened. It seems Grandpa has a thing when it comes to heartbreak, and Mr. Burns has a thing with ruining Grandpa's sweet moment. Grandpa decides to take revenge on Mr. Burns by ruining his marriage ceremony with Jacqueline and asking for her hand in marriage, but she chooses not to marry either of them again. Every good life must come to an end, even if it is a life immortalized. I mean, Grandpa's been alive for so long, Mona even died before he did. But you see, Grandpa still doesn't die. He is dead, but in the future, we find out that he is frozen underneath the cemetery to prevent a disease from killing him. This goes on for decades, and Homer and his children take turns to visit him and reunite their relationship.
Your father's not going to be around forever.
Why'd you take that back?
Fine, he'll be around forever.
And that's it for the life of Abe Simpson, from his young age to his war years, his love life, his present and future. His fabricated stories will always be remembered in television history. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, remember to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to stay updated with more exciting content. Until next time, folks.